17 years after the Wright brothers made their first historic flight, a young lad who wanted nothing but to learn to fly signed up to attend an air mechanics school offered by the Air Force while they awaited training funds to begin a new flight class.
I spent a year learning airplanes, and it was the best thing that happened to me. When I started taking planes into the air, I knew everything that made them tick. If something went wrong, I knew exactly what it was, and generally I could fix it. I realized then that everybody who takes a plane off the ground should know what he's doing.
By 1923, John Paul Riddle had learned just about everything there was to know about airplanes and had graduated from advanced flight training, having been one of only 2 cadets in his class to receive his commission. In between barnstorming adventures, he operated a small business, taking passengers up for rides. One of his first passengers was a boy who drove up in a locomobile. The young man had only $20 with him to pay for a plane ride, but somehow he managed to convince Riddle to take him up. It wasn't difficult. Riddle usually charged only $3. One ride and T. Higbee Embry was hooked. He soon bought a Waco 9, the first one made by Advance Aircraft Company, and Riddle taught him to fly. By 1925, these two had become close friends and at Embry's suggestion teamed up to form the Embry Riddle Company. The founding day of the young company was December 17th, a date chosen because the Kitty Hawk flight of 1903 took place on that day. The new company still took passengers up for rides, but concentrated on the hauling of freight and an important news service, carrying the U.S. mail. They soon realized that if they were going to have pilots qualified to the high degree that they felt necessary, they were going to have to train them themselves. And so in 1926, the present Embry Riddle Aeronautical University began as a new service of the Embry Riddle Company, called the Embry Riddle Flying School. The school was an unqualified success, and by its second year of operation was regarded as second to none in America. That year, its 6 airplanes spent 3,360 hours in the air, most of them flown instructing the 80 students who received diplomas in 1927. The school continued to flourish and was commended for its excellent safety record. By 1928, its phenomenal growth accounted for 312 graduates, an almost 300% increase over the previous year. The Embry Riddle Company was in the unique position of contributing to aviation from both sides, as an employer and as a trainer of pilots. Even that long ago, the school made a distinction between teaching one to fly and teaching one to be a pilot.
To be a pilot, the individual needs the primary and advanced courses along with the ground courses and flying experience in all types of aircraft. He needs experience in airport and airline management, as well as hangar and maintenance work.
With this philosophy, it is small wonder that the Embry Riddle Flying School was one of the first to be licensed by the Department of Commerce. It was rated in ground and flying instruction for transport, limited commercial, and private licenses. When in 1930 the Embry Riddle Company became a link in the giant American Airways, the Embry Riddle Flying School was the largest school in the United States to be operated from a single field. When John Paul Riddle left American Airways in 1934 with but a single plane and reestablished his school in Miami, Florida, few realized the proportions to which the school would grow. By 1939, he had established a full partnership with John G. McKay, Jr., a prominent Florida attorney who had been a lieutenant in the Balloon Corps. McKay had been intrigued with aviation since World War I, and together the two reorganized the Embry Riddle Company. The story of Embry Riddle in the 1940s is a complex web in which the partnership between Riddle and McKay expanded from teaching flight at the County Causeway and the municipal airport to training college students as reservists, training pilots for the British Royal Air Force, and accepting General Hap Arnold's challenge to train the newly formed Army Air Corps. In just 2 years, Embry Riddle School of Aviation expanded to 87 flight instructors, 6 ground instructors, and 390 employees. One of their first big contracts involved the Civil Pilot Training Program. This program was launched by the government in 1939 to train college students as reserve pilots in the event of war. 50,000 civilian pilots were trained nationwide in 3 years, and Embry Riddle was a major contractor. Another of their major involvements during these years was the training of over 8,000 pilots for the British Royal Air Force. The first class of Royal Air Force pilots enjoyed Embry Riddle far beyond their expectations. The school at Arcadia had excellent training facilities and equipment, complete with swimming pool, tennis courts, and athletic facilities. The Britons returned home with something nearly unheard of in England: suntans. Before the war was over, the Embry Riddle Company had grown to become the largest privately owned aviation training school in the world. Training had expanded to 5 major facilities: seaplane training on MacArthur Causeway in Miami, the British Flying Training School at Riddle Field near Clewiston, Florida, and Army Air Corps primary flying schools at Embry Riddle Field in Union City, Tennessee, and at both Carlston and Dorr Fields near Arcadia, Florida. The Embry Riddle Company's contribution to the country's war effort was phenomenal. At peak operation, the school had 200 Army technical trainees graduating every week. All in all, during those years, Embry Riddle trained 26,000 students. With the end of the war, the curriculum at Embry Riddle focused on more academic concerns, and the emphasis was reoriented to civilian training for peacetime activities. The school's enrollment was reduced to its size of 1939. John Paul Riddle turned his interest to the South American School, and John McKay became the president and sole owner of what had now evolved into Embry Riddle Aeronautical Institute. Isabel McKay succeeded her husband as president and general manager in 1951. She was one of the few women ever to head an aeronautical school, and the only woman ever to hold the reins of Embry Riddle. She reorganized the company as a non-profit school, and although she remained on the board of trustees throughout her life, in 1963 she appointed Jack R. Hunt as her successor. Jack Hunt, a dashing U.S. naval commander, had served in World War II, the Korean conflict, and had been awarded the Harmon Trophy for piloting a Navy blimp on a record round-trip flight across the Atlantic Ocean. He came to Embry Riddle first in 1963 as a business consultant and remained as its president until his death 21 years later. When the Dade County Port Authority announced that Tamiami Airport was to be phased out, the Board of Trustees of Embry Riddle decided that to operate efficiently, the school's facilities must be consolidated. Hunt began a search for a new location that could meet all of the school's needs. The citizens of Daytona Beach recognized the advantages a partnership with the school would offer, and in 1965, the Daytona Beach Jaycees, the Committee of 100, and local businessmen devised plans to assist the school with its move. When the school announced it would need $75,000 to relocate, the citizens raised it in 5 days. Then they assembled a convoy of 34 donated trucks and 50 volunteers, drove to Miami, and physically moved the school, lock, stock, and jet engines to its new home at the Daytona Regional Airport. Embry Riddle arrived in Daytona Beach with only 239 students, 38 faculty and staff, $500,000 worth of equipment, and a desire to be a partner with the community in the development of the world's finest aviation school. Today, that partnership has proved to be a worthy and successful one. Embry Riddle Aeronautical University is a fully accredited multi-campus university with almost 5,000 students at the Daytona Beach campus alone. Annual economic impact on Volusia County is more than $110 million, and the friendship between the school and the community is as close and secure as the day it was founded. T. Higbee Embry credited aviation with fostering friendships. In 1929, concerning John Paul Riddle, he wrote,
"Paul and I have been as close as brothers, and our partnership has always been the most pleasant relationship. I believe that's another result of aviation. It is new and changing. The people engaged in it are young and likable. Friendships ripen fast and acquire permanence."
For 60 years, Embry Riddle has provided excellent opportunities for students to meet, learn, share their enthusiasm for aviation, and develop those permanent friendships. Embry did not know how timeless his words were when he wrote,
Thus, remembering a few of the things of the past, giving ourselves a pat or two on the back, and praising the fruits of a real friendship, we start into a new year, which we know will be crammed full of history and aviation, packed with events and progress that we can't even imagine. We invite the world to watch the progress of the Embry Riddle Company.